As government prioritized the vaccination group of persons 50 years and older, along with those in the hospitality, health, education and security sectors, let us who are still waiting for our first and even second dose continue to observe the COVID-19 protocols. In fact, we all need to, vaccinated or not. These include social distancing, wearing a mask in public, and regularly washing or sanitizing our hands. Another key measure is to stay home if you are sick. If we consistently abide by these measures, we will continue to see a decline in the country's COVID-19 numbers. In the show today, medical experts answer a few questions about the vaccine and reinforce its safety. Hello there, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Stay with us.
So the first technique that will be explained today is the technique of boiling. What we advise is for you to obtain clean water, water that you can see through. Then you would place it into a pot, you'd cover the pot and allow for it to boil. Allow for rolling boil for about 5 minutes. Then it would look something like this. Then after you would have achieved the 5 minutes of rolling boil, then you'd allow for it to cool. Then you would place it inside of another container.
Use an airtight container to store your water. If the water is not used within a few weeks, be sure to carry out additional treatment of the water. That may include boiling the water once more.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, June 24, 2021. Jamaica's healthcare systems and services will benefit from technical assistance under a new agreement between the Ministry of Health and the Pan American Health Organization, World Health Organization. The agreement was signed at the ministry's head office on Tuesday.
The government of Jamaica, and by extension the people of Jamaica, will benefit from the implementation of a new primary care model, development of a 5-year investment plan for the upgrade, replacement of medical equipment, development and implementation of an infrastructure, building and equipment maintenance program, very important one for me, maintenance, building out of national capacity for human resources for health planning, restructuring of the ministry and regional health authorities, and institutional strengthening of our national public health lab as a reference lab.
The health ministry will provide a voluntary contribution of $800,000 to PAHO as a part of the technical cooperation agreement. PAHO and WHO country representative for Jamaica, Dr. Bernadette Theodore Gandhi, says the key areas of upgrade will ensure the health system's resilience in responding to current and emerging challenges. Government has signed a 10-year waste-to-energy agreement with Caribbean Cement Company Limited, CCCL, to find new use for end-of-life tires. The Memorandum of Understanding provides for the removal of tires from the island's 8 disposal sites to the CCCL, where they will be used as an alternative source of fuel in the cement production process. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the program symbolizes a change in perception from waste as a problem to waste as a resource. He's encouraging other private sector entities to get involved.
So the program creates a triple win. It gets rid of used tires in landfills. It reduces the fossil fuel used in cement production, and it actually improves cement quality. It is good for business, and it is good for the environment.
Achieving environmental excellence is our priority. We dedicate efforts to address key sustainability-related issues, from biodiversity and conservation to renewable energy, climate change, and emissions monitoring. We're improving our carbon footprint and being part of the solution that creates a more circular economy in Jamaica.
The 10-year program goes into effect on July 1 and runs until June 30, 2031. Phase 1 will focus on removing about 2 million tires from the Riverton City landfill. Phase 2 and 3 will cover the removal of tires from all 8 disposal sites, the creation of an inventory, and implementation of a public education and awareness campaign. Tuesday's contract signing is a continuation of a pilot project launched in 2019, where 6,000 tires from the Riverton City landfill were incinerated at the CCCL. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government intends to develop a new policy and strategies to secure private lands that have been designated as protected areas. The state is currently working on a new Protected Areas Act, which will allow for the creation and regulation of a national protected areas system. The system is aimed at safeguarding lands that possess environmental, cultural, and heritage assets and resources. 15 such sites have already been identified by the National Environment and Planning Agency, some of which are in private hands. But Prime Minister Holness says ways are being identified to secure these properties, including engaging in land swaps.
We could give several incentives for owners to develop the land in accordance with the protected area. We could have partnerships with them where we jointly develop the land in keeping with the protected status of the land, or we could acquire the land depending on the nature of the protection and how we consider this as a valuable piece of land to protect.
The Prime Minister was addressing Friday's tree planting exercise at St. Catherine High School. It was done as part of the My Tree Legacy campaign, whereby past students are encouraged to plant trees at their alma maters. The Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, in collaboration with the Banana Board, has launched an $18.4 million planting pilot project. The project will involve the establishment of 10 hectares of irrigated planting production in Portland, St. Mary, St. Catherine, Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, and St. Thomas. The project is expected to increase overall production of plantains by 300 tons after year 1. It should also improve crop quality in keeping with local and international food safety standards and expand the availability of plantains on a sustained basis throughout the second year. The plantain pilot project is being jointly financed by the government and farmers. The Agriculture Ministry's portion will support planting material and land preparation and material inputs. Farmers are responsible for the irrigation component, while technical services will be provided by the Banana Board. During the virtual launch on Tuesday, Portfolio Minister Floyd Green said the project would target 16 planting farmers over the 2 years. He says the ministry expects that farmers who participate in this program will be able to make at least 62% on their investment. The minister later announced that the establishment of an additional 100 hectares of planting was being considered. Cabinet has given approval for properties owned by the Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica, PCJ, to be disposed of and/or divested. Information Minister Favor Williams made the disclosure during yesterday's post-cabinet press briefing. She says the decision is in keeping with the Policy Framework and Procedures Manual for the divestment of government-owned lands.
The decision will see PCJ properties in Font Hill, St. Elizabeth, transferred directly to the Urban Development Corporation for its use. The Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica property located at 36 Trafalgar Road in Kingston will be rented at rates to be negotiated in the short term.
The minister says the activities are in line with a cabinet decision in August 2019, where it was agreed that the core functions of the PCJ are to be integrated into the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. And finally, the curfew imposed on communities in Kingston Central has been extended until 7 p.m. Friday, June 25. It covers areas along East Queen Street, Hanover Street, South Camp Road, and Water Lane. According to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, in the last 6 weeks, 9 firearms and 126 assorted rounds of ammunition were seized in the area. During that period, the police also intercepted, arrested, and charged 8 gang members. Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson says this is credited to the force's quick response unit within the Kingston region. The mostly bike-based unit is comprised of 50 members, with others in training.
This is what allows us to so deploy that wherever persons who feel that they should perpetrate crime and violence, that we as the police can rapidly respond to them and capture them before, sometimes in the shortest possible time. And critical to that is the equipment that we get to support those highly trained officers who do this type of work.
Commissioner Anderson was speaking at the handover of assorted vehicles to the JCF last Friday. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Practice good hygiene by washing your hands frequently using soap and water. Here's how you should do it while conserving water. Turn on the tap to wet your hands, then turn off the pipe. Lather your hands and the tap with soap. Turn on the tap and wash your hands, back, front, and in between fingers. Use some of the water to wash off the tap, then turn it off. Dry your hands with disposable hand towels. If you don't have running water, use a hand rub containing 62% or more alcohol. If hand sanitizers are not available, rubbing alcohol, Dettol, white rum, or household bleach will do the trick. And if all else fails, let hand washing and the handling of potable water be a 2-person event. Each person will take turns pouring and washing hands with sitting water. Now is a good time to consider installing a tap on your containers to reduce the risk of water contamination. Faucets can be easily attached to drums, buckets, or 5-gallon water bottles. And to ensure that the outside of the containers are clean when recapping, disinfect it with hand rub containing alcohol that's 62% or more. The 5 R's of water conservation are also necessary to practice. Reduce water wastage by investing in water-saving devices. Reuse water at least twice before discarding. Replace leaking pipes, faucets, and other plumbing equipment. Recycle wastewater and use it for gardening, car washing, or cleaning of public spaces. And reclaim water through rainwater harvesting. We all must play our part to ensure there's water to combat the coronavirus and stave off prolonged drought.
If you have questions about the COVID-19 vaccine, our next feature has answers.
Vaccination is not new to Jamaica. The fears of vaccination, I believe, especially given the situation with this pandemic, are to a large degree unfounded because we have our own history to rely on. And indeed, with new births in the island, it is our public health requirement that they are vaccinated for various diseases. And that goes on almost on a daily basis. And we do go back to the clinics for vaccination for booster shots.
This is a disease that we have to take seriously. Many people, it is true, luckily, the majority of persons who get COVID may have some symptoms, some have no symptoms at all, especially if you're young. But if you are older, then as many as 1 out of 6 who gets COVID, who is over 70 years of age, is likely to die. And if you're over 80 years of age, then 1 out of 4 may die. So our best hope to control this epidemic is the vaccine. Now, I have the privilege of being on the World Health Organization working group that is reviewing all the vaccines that have been prepared to protect people against COVID. We've looked at this vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine. The World Health Organization has approved it as highly effective and safe.
If I take the vaccine, then I personally am safe from the disease. But if I'm the only one that takes the vaccine, it doesn't really do any public good because the disease, the virus is still around and still infecting. And indeed, though I am vaccinated and I may not get ill, I could still carry the virus. This is the beginning of the end. It is not the end. We are right there now, where if we behave responsibly, personally responsible, and as a community responsible, then we can bring the end of this pandemic earlier. A few things that we have to understand. One, it is the scarcity of the supply. Once you introduce pricing as a means of rationing how the vaccine is distributed, then what it means is that people who can afford the price will get it, and those who can't won't. And that is not good for social stability. The second issue is to ensure proper regulation, right? We need to be able, with certainty, that the persons, that we have captured the information of the persons who got the vaccine, and be able at very short notice with, if anything went wrong, especially in terms of the batches and how they are distributed. So tracking is important.
We're asking that the country, all of our people, support us. When it's time to be vaccinated, let's do it in the orderly manner that we can. Let's make ourselves, our entire country proud of just us accepting the vaccine and doing it the way we know we should. And remember, we're trying our very best to ensure that no one is left behind.
Earlier, we answered some of the questions you may have about the COVID-19 vaccine. We now look at its development cycle to ease any further skepticism you may have about its safety.
In 2005, this huge global scale with SARS, the severe acute respiratory syndrome, when people were dying in Hong Kong and the Far East, and some cases even came to New York. That SARS in 2005 was caused by a coronavirus, which is a cousin to this virus, this coronavirus that causes COVID. So from 2005, they have been working on trying to get an effective vaccine to the SARS virus, and which also has a spike protein. And when the MERS epidemic came, this is the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, developed in 2012, there were a number of cases, and that stimulated more research. So when the Chinese in January of last year identified the actual sequence of the genetic makeup of the coronavirus that causes COVID, and they made it publicly available to the scientific community. Within 1 week, a German company had produced a test which we use here to identify whether you have been infected with the COVID virus. It's the PCR test that we are using. It was developed 1 week after the virus was sequenced. And those vaccine scientists who were working on the SARS vaccine now, they just took the sequence that they got from the COVID virus and changed up their vaccine work a little bit and produced candidate vaccines in weeks. And then they had to take that vaccine and put it in clinical trials, 3 different stages, in animals, in a few, say, healthy adults to make sure it was safe, and then they put it in the trials with thousands of people. And these are the results that we are hearing about. It's not overnight. It is over 15 years. All the vaccines that have been reviewed so far are both effective and safe. It's not a live vaccine. It uses what we call a vector. They take the shell of a virus, a common cold virus, adenovirus, simply to get that into the body's system and into the immune system cells. And within that, there is a mimic of the spike protein, something just made that's similar to the spike protein, that then induces in the human a response that helps to protect us against the coronavirus itself that causes the COVID disease. Now, this is technology that has been used many times in terms, so it's a traditional platform. There is no adjuvant, there is no harmful material in the vaccine, and the material in the vaccine that goes into the cells is rapidly broken down and removed by the body through normal methods. Now, how do we know it is safe? It is put in trials, thousands of persons, and what you do is you give the vaccine to some people and you give a placebo. In other words, something that does not have the vaccine, just a simple saline injection or equivalent. And you compare the side effects, and you can see that the only side effects that we've been seeing that are of any significance are like a swollen arm, a little fever, headache, tiredness, and these usually go within 24 hours. Now, why it's so important to have this comparison group that you give the placebo is because in every population, you will find that people develop different conditions from time to time. So you can compare these conditions that arise, including severe conditions that arise in those who did not get the vaccine and those who get the vaccine. And you can see that there is a similar pattern of these conditions that arise. But in the people who get the vaccine, there are signs, the response of the body, the little fever, headache, and the local reaction tells you that the body is responding to the vaccine and developing the antibodies and the cells that protect you against the COVID. There are very few cases of severe COVID requiring hospitalization in persons who are vaccinated. These vaccines are very effective and safe. When you get the vaccine, the body has to respond to it. So if you get exposed within the next week, it means that you could still become infected. So you still have to keep on your mask, maintain physical distancing. Now, the AstraZeneca vaccine, it takes on average, I would say, 2 to 4 weeks for you to really begin to develop good immunity. Yes. And then you get your second dose after 4 to 12 weeks. And that immunity shows to be very, very good, because among the persons who have 2 doses, very few of them got the COVID, very few of them. But even after 1 dose, you could see where after a few weeks, persons were protected from COVID, but the protection was not as full as when you got the second dose. Vaccine trials have shown they have been taking place on all continents, and we have now in trials tested the vaccine in hundreds of thousands of people.
These are very safe vaccines, and we don't anticipate any adverse reaction. The drug companies working through the COVAX arrangement that the WHO, World Health Organization, has coordinated, have said that the countries that are accessing the vaccines should sign an indemnity to essentially rid them of liability should anything happen. And that was the basis on which we would access the vaccine. The fact is that the process of getting to a vaccine, which the WHO would have validated, as was said earlier by Dr. Figueroa, gives us the comfort that we are getting a good product, a safe product. We recognize, because of the emergency approval process, why they would take this position. And what the government has done in response to that, or is doing in response, the government clearly will have to take on that responsibility. And so the Attorney General's Chamber, having gone through a process of discussion within the cabinet, would make necessary legal arrangements to meet those requirements. But at the same time, as a government, we clearly appreciate and understand that we have an obligation to our citizens. So we say to citizens, there is no need to fear. This is a safe product.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye, running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs on our manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs round here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
This is where our journey ends, but only for today. Do join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. In the meantime, stay connected via our website, gis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at gis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. You may also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.